I'll introduce two of my industry friends in a minute, but I just thought I would just introduce myself. So Andy Rayner, I'm on the Appear booth. I've put the number down somewhere here. Yeah, 1531, but you can see it from here. So if you want to come and have a chat afterwards, do feel free to. I do a podcast as part of my company, and we've got There's two questions I always ask my podcast victims, which I'm going to ask these two in a minute, which is, first of all, what's your favourite flavour ice cream? And B, because I'm a British tea man, and I see there's one or two other tea purveyors in the audience that have just stepped in, are you a tea or a coffee person? So these are important facts to get up front before we start diving in. But anyway, I would like to give my two industry friends a chance to introduce themselves. So we'll start on the left here. John, tell us who you are, what you do, and tea or coffee and favourite flavour ice cream. Go.
Hi, I'm John Mailhot. The day job that feeds my children, I work at Imagine Communications as the VP of Product Management. My hobby job is I've been the editor of SMPTE 2110 for the last 10 years.
What?
The first meeting of the
track record
2110 drafting group was literally 10 years ago, last month. And I also am a director of the Advanced Media Workflow Association and the Video Services Forum, as also Andy is the director of the VSF, but he failed to mention.
Thank you very much.
And coffee. Sorry, I'm a coffee person because we can't get good tea over here, apparently.
You can't.
I'll put in a vote for stracciatella.
Oh, I say. Do you know, I haven't had one of them, I don't think, at all yet. So this is good. Wilson, tell us who you are, what you do, tea or ice cream, and everything.
Yes. Oh, geez. Thanks, Andy. My name is Wilson Tennermann. I work for Fox Sports, one of the directors of engineering there, and I run the home run production group. So that's kind of our model where we do remote production, similar to, some people call it REMI, we call it HRP. So we support the live production facility and all the engineering support. Espresso, baby, all day. Espresso, come on. No tea in my house. Vanilla, basic.
Aren't you coming to the UK soon?
2 weeks, yeah.
2 weeks. You've got to get used to it.
My wife is English, so Andy and I have had this conversation before. So,
and ice cream. Did you say ice cream?
Yeah, vanilla.
Vanilla. Okay. Plain but beautiful. Okay, very good. Two quick slides just to put the context in. First of all, there's so many people talking about video in this conference, but actually audio is the most important bit. It's also generally the most complex bit of any production as well. And it's always the bit that people are firefighting to get working. But for all the reasons on the screen, audio really is the king. So it's with that premise we're going to have this conversation. I also just want to say that human audio acuity is phenomenal. The sensitivity we have to levels of audio, to phase, and everything is just insane. You've only got to look at the resolutions of audio we deal with just to be acceptable to the human ear. And so audio is a fascination. Off the record, or no, on the record, I'm a bit of an audio fanatic outside of my day job as well. So I've got a recording studio at home and do a lot of audio stuff. So this is all in there. Anyway, that's enough of talking around the subject. What I thought it'd be really good to do, we're going to try and get to a couple of key points here on this conversation of some things we think we need to do within the industry to move a few things forward specifically. And we've narrowed the title down a bit since it was published. Surviving the Wild West of the Wide Area Network is what we're homing in on. And Wilson, you've been talking about HRPs. So you're obviously within a production, with any HRP production, you're doing a lot of long distance audio. So tell us how you're doing that, typical numbers of channels, typical formats, and then in a minute, we'll get to pain points.
Yep, absolutely. I just want to take a line off what you said. So my colleague at Fox, Kevin Callahan, has this great line where he says, audio is 10% of the show, 90% of the problems. And he's right. So in our typical workflow, what we're doing, obviously we're line cutting and actually audio mixing our show back from our facility in Los Angeles. We deploy a media encoding kit, and we've got audio processing that, lives within the kit. So on the field side, we obviously deploy field of play microphones, right? They go into a preamp, and then we embed those into our video services, and then we're, taking them back over various codec, whatever, back to our facility. So for a big show, if we're doing college football or an MLB on Fox or something like that, usually we're going to have something like 16 video paths, and then we're going to have either 8 or 16 channels embedded per path. A lot of those are duplicate. I'd say for the show, we're probably using 24 to 32 independent channels, and that will be, like I said, talent, audio mics, field of play microphones, effects, things like that. And so those all come back for integration in the audio mix rooms in our facility.
And typically you're backcalling them as embedded feeds within video,
Correct.
embedded in quote.
Exactly. So what we have to do is we actually have to deploy embedders, right? Legacy SDI embedders. And then that's what we actually, merge our audio with the video, and then we're putting them in the encoder.
Yeah. I've seen other people that have been using what I would have called legacy technologies such as MADI, just because of the clocking, or the simplicity of the clocking, and the fact you can just do bulk dumps. Do you use that as well? Or?
Yeah, no, we still do. Yeah. So we're using a CalRec remote mixer, and we do have a MADI interface in that. So some trucks will hand off a MADI signal. We oftentimes deploy our own commentary booth, which is actually riding on a Dante network. So we build a little closed, just layer 2 Dante network, and that's how we're doing the local commentary mix IFB program through that. Nothing of that is being transported over the WAN, which is kind of what you and I have spent a long time talking about. So that's all just lives locally in the kit and then broken out into those embedded services.
And then you've got comms as well, which comes into it.
And that's the other huge pain point, because we're also doing, usually these shows require 8, 16 channels of comms, still using VoIP for a lot of that. We've moved on to do RTP for, certain trucks and events that can handle it, but it's a pain point. The comms are always a problem.
Okay. And the handoff to the truck is still XLR line level, right?
For comms?
And everything else.
Yeah, yes and no. Honestly, a lot of the newer trucks, right, we will link Dante into them.
Okay.
And so we'll do a Dante interface. So it'll be a VoIP from our intercom system to we have an intercom in our kits.
Yeah.
So depending on nowadays, for years, it was XLR, line level, in and out, 4-wire IO. Nowadays, a lot of these trucks have gotten a bit better, and they'll ask us, hey, can you give us comms over Dante? We're like, yeah, no problem. So
good.
Now the title, which we came up when we were discussing this a few days ago, Surviving the Wild West of the WAN, basically there's an implication in what we're saying there, that the pristine, error-free, low latency, zero PDV environment of a local area network, which most pristine digital audio sits on, is not almost ever guaranteed when you're traversing long distances over connectivity. So, John, we've seen, I think, in the industry, as we've done various standards that we've both been involved in, that quite a lot of what we've been doing in those is catering for the inadequacies of imperfect connectivity in wide area networks.
Right. I mean, yeah, it's not inadequacy. It's just reality, right? If you buy a leased line from LTN or somebody from here to there, it's going to be really, really nice, but it's also expensive. If you get 100 meg internet drop from whoever runs it here, you get what you get, and it works pretty good most of the time. And unfortunately, that's the economic solution. So when you get, connectivity for a remote event, it's somewhere between those two extremes. You get a pretty good service that pretty well works, but, you lose some packets here, you lose some packets there. Plus the wrinkles of, like you mentioned earlier, security and firewalls and it's not just the internet, right? It's getting there. And it's getting out of there on the other end of the facility and keeping all the wrong traffic out. And that stuff causes no end of packet delay variation to the signal you are sending.
And Wilson, I don't know. I mean, traditionally broadcasters, I think until pre-COVID, were pretty well typically using pristine leased line connectivity, which has a pretty deterministic performance. But certainly as a customer base globally, we're seeing a lot of people starting to use unmanaged internet connectivity, even within a live production. Are you going there as well, or are you largely still on the leased line environment?
So we're honestly doing both. Most of what I was explaining earlier, we are using a leased line. So we'll rent a line, a private line from a carrier, and we've done RTP on that. We've done uncompressed, and it does work. we do also have situations where we are using just the public internet, and that might come from a school, that might come from the convention center, just playing, and then we're doing an IPsec tunnel for our actual connection back.
Yeah. Now, in the world of video and audio together, JPEG XS has become quite a sort of contribution format for compression. And within the Video Services Forum that John and I are both very involved in, there were two technical recommendations that were evolved, TR07 and TR08. My expectation has been completely flawed in the last 4 years, because I expected TR08, which is effectively a derivation of 2110-22, carrying the compressed video essence as an essence feed. But that has lost hands down to TR07, which is transport stream based. And I've been kind of searching for answers as to why that is in the customer base, because TR07 has had such phenomenal adoption globally. And John, I think the reason that's happened is because of the security of a clock recovered transport stream architecture, rather than having to rely on pristine synchronization that we do end to end with TR08.
I think, we made a similar flawed assumption that TR08 would be the prevailing standard. We've, as you have as well, built out lots of TR07 since then. And every customer I talk to about this, they come back to, I've been using transport streams for 20 years. I understand them. And the transport stream itself, I don't want to date myself and say that I was involved, but I was.
He was.
The timing model of that was revolutionary at the time. And, the idea that you were going to send clocks PCRs in the timestamp and recover clock a certain way, like that stuff was all invented in the 90s, and it was revolutionary. And there was a lot of doubt whether it would work, but we now have 40 years of industrial experience with it. And we've grown to trust it. We've grown to know how to make it work. And there's still bad implementations out there, but there's a lot of good ones too.
Neither represented on stage here, I have to say. So the audio that goes within TR07, one of the interesting things that we've been talking about in the last 12 months is from some end users, especially global broadcasters and content providers. We've had this kind of quantization, certainly in the embedded video world, of 16 channels is what you do, and then you jump and embed another 16 channels in the next SDI and so on. That's how we group things. But TR07 itself never had an upper limit of the number of channels you could support. And some end customers we've seen in the last few months have been requesting going up to 64 channels or 32 and then 64 channels to have the flexibility of carrying things. So that's actually one interesting evolution of requirements as again, the number of audio channels needed for some applications is being carried. But getting back to the good old transport stream and the way that works in the wide area network, one of the things that I have continually seen both in my current job and in previous jobs in this industry is lots of people wanting to carry bulk audio over the wide area network a la AES67, but it needs to be robust as well. And when I say robust, obviously a lot of people are deploying AES67 in local area networks and wide area networks with -7, the RTP merge technology. And obviously you can, because it's an RTP signal, you can apply an ARQ technology, you can apply FEC to that as well. But the one thing, which is the reason TR07, I think, has been so successful, is the adaptive clock recovery at the far end. Because when we're going from an outside broadcast location or wherever that might be, into a stadium, into a studio, a centralized studio for an HRP, you can't always guarantee the source timing is frequency locked to the destination timing. And for AES67, native AES67 to work, that's an inherent requirement because you're actually going in and out with the same timing. So most vendors, and I know John is doing it, I know we're doing it, and a lot of others inherently do this mechanism where when we traverse the WAN, not only do we put in the protection mechanisms, we also put in the ability to do adaptive clock recovery to the source and then retime to the destination domain as an extra function. So effectively, you do an adaptive buffer type adaptive clock recovery mechanism to the receiver. And then you actually, if you necessary, sample rate convert, or if they do happen to be locked, you're just doing a phase convert to get to a presentation at the far end. And one of the things that I don't think has been recognized in the industry is a standard way of articulating that. I think there was some work done in AE67 a handful of years ago I was speaking to my friend Andreas about, but we've never got that. So one of my ambitions this year is to make another technical recommendation that actually articulates that specific behavior. So we adaptively clock recover, and then, which doesn't necessarily need to be part of the recommendation, then you can obviously sample rate convert to get you back to guaranteeing you're in the timing of the received domain. Any thoughts, John?
So it's something that everybody does, or most major vendors do this already, but what I think is missing is kind of a spec of how bad could the delivery be when it gets there. And the transport stream world struggled with this as well, by the way, that when we first spec'd transport stream, the spec was like 100 nanoseconds of PCR jitter. You remember that? And that all signals should be so pristine as that. The reality of delivery of transport streams was that, no, the PCRs are all over the map because it's been mangled in getting there. Well, the same thing is true now in these RTP streams, RTP timestamps. So what we kind of need as part of that activity is like a profile of types of distortion. Is it just Gaussian distortion? Is it off by like big delay and then all of a sudden it catches up, which is vastly different? Because, in the end, for a recommendation to matter, you have to have something you can measure.
Yeah, and I think the packet delay variation is something you've come across with firewall traversal, isn't it?
Yeah, that's the other huge thing, is that we've seen anytime we want to put any media through the firewall, it struggles. We were talking about this last week, and I know lots of companies have had the same issue. One quick bit of minutia though, on these carriers, these private lines are not the same. So if you go to a carrier and you say, I want a 1 gig line, they're going to offer you MPLS or they're going to offer you a wave network. The jitter differs depending on kind of pay to play on that. Yeah. So over time, I think what you're kind of thinking, what we see sometimes, particularly on the older MPLS circuit, within the SLA, we might see a little bit of jitter very, very briefly, enough to tear our streams down. And you go to the carrier, they're like, yeah, that's expected behavior.
It's in spec. What do you want? Yeah. That's what they say.
I think it's also worth being aware that hyperscale cloud providers' connectivity is never as pristine as a leased line from a telco. So, hyperscale connectivity that they provide is inherently lossy because it's designed and architected for a TCP world, and pristine UDP is not the flavor of what they measure. So we have to allow for that stuff as well inherently in the modern world when we're going in and out of, or even just using hyperscale providers for point-to-point connectivity.
So I think one of the things we would need in an activity as you envision is some end customers that are willing to let us basically capture packets at the point they get in. I know, thank you. And
we have a volunteer
sort of build a library of how bad it can be.
Yeah.
And use that to develop, some test protocol, because doing adaptive clock recovery of signals that are fairly easy is easy. Doing adaptive clock recovery across some of these crazy quilt jitter scenarios is difficult, and you want to make sure that you can test to the difficult case.
Absolutely. So, 20 minutes flies by when you're on stage with friends talking about these things. Guys, that's been very good. So we're looking to do a new technical recommendation on this. Again, not because people aren't doing this, but we don't have a standard way of articulating what's being done. And we really want to bring the industry together on that. So if anyone's interested in being part of this, reach out to me, or indeed either of these other gentlemen on stage, because we're all going to be clubbing together to help make this work. So, I don't think we've got time for questions, because my countdown is giving me 7 seconds left here. But we would love to get some input. So I'm going to hang around for 10 minutes. I don't know how much time these guys have got. Mailhot. So if you want to have a conversation, we'll step to the side and love to get your details. You can always contact me. I'll just give you my email. And also the Appear stand and my home in the UK does great cups of tea. So if you're ever in the UK, reach out to me. I'm about an hour and a half outside of London. Anyone's welcome to come for a cup of tea. Or the Appear stand is only about 40 seconds walk over there. So that's an easier reach. And we've actually got some Brits making cups of tea over there. These guys don't even like tea. So it's wasted on them. Wilson, John, thank you for your input. Thank you everyone for being part of it. If you want to get involved, you want to contribute user stories, be part of the game, do get in touch. Thank you for your time, everyone. Really appreciate you being here.